I'm waiting for Plane Wave to get the last bits in for the CDK 14. So I'm still not operational. So
yeah, there was someone in the Austin Astrophotography group that they were talking about. Oh, I'm going to go out to Georgetown, look at the C11. I was like, is that from Ed? And he was like, yeah. Because I picked it up, and I was like, man, I knew I should have got that.
So good scope, good price, good scope.
Yep, it was.
I had my 5 years, very, very nice 5 years doing photometry with that scope.
Say, Jamie, Jamie, could you check the YouTube feed on another device?
Hey there, yes, hang on.
I can look at that. I have it YouTube already up here. Austin Astro.
And I got it on too. I don't
see
see August yet.
I see it live.
You do?
Okay.
Yeah, if you go to video, it'll show it as live.
Oh.
So it's about a minute behind us, maybe, or 30 seconds behind us.
Oh, it just went away.
There you go, yes, hang on.
It went away. Oh, no.
Yeah, I got it. It's good. I got it on too.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's on August yet.
Yeah, I can hear it in the background. So, okay. Good evening, Joyce.
Hi.
Hi.
Terry, do we have things set up for a vote on the budget?
Oh, gosh. No. Do you know how to set it up?
No, that was Sean.
All right. Yeah.
Probably Sean hadn't volunteered, but
did we do it through Wild Apricot, or did we do it through Zoom vote?
I thought he did it through either Wild Apricot or WordPress. I don't remember.
You know, I thought about it, and I put it on my let's check this list, and I didn't get back to it.
Well, if we don't have it, I think we could just do a show of hands. It's likely we're not going to have any objections, but
yeah.
People could object on the chat line.
They could have.
If there aren't any objections on the chat, then we can say it's unanimous.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good idea. Jim, we'll just have to make sure we got good eyes on the chat. Okay. So are you guys are looking at the notes right now? I'm operating on just a laptop screen, so I'm not used to not being able to see everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
I see the minutes.
Yeah, you've got the minutes up. Yeah.
Okay. So did anybody get some good Perseids in? I know Tom Campbell got a good view there. Anybody else?
Don and I went to Mansfield Dam and stayed there until dawn. And
Dawn at dawn.
yeah, we saw maybe about 3 dozen. I've seen more frequent showers, but it was pretty good.
Well, considering that's about a Bortle 6 these
Yeah,
days,
yeah, it wasn't that great.
probably not bad.
And the clouds came through, and actually we had cover for maybe an hour or maybe less, and then it cleared up again.
Saw a great.
One through a gap in the curtains from my living room.
Well, he wasn't sure if it was a meteor or a firefly, but
From the color, the fact that it was green, fireflies aren't normally green. They're normally yellow through red.
Yeah.
That's true.
Greeting, Phil Kelton. Good evening.
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Coming
Okay,
in
great.
loud and clear. So 4 minutes away from an official start here. That's when we should start seeing a rush come in about then. Good evening, Ron Carmen. Good to see you again.
Hi there, Terry. I was actually out at Pedernales Falls State Park not too long ago, and I think I saw the container that you have the stuff in. I wish you'd let me know because I would have been happy to work on the site. Let me know in the future, and I'll be happy to come out there and help work on it sometime.
We're going to talk about that. We've got a budget item for it, or not a budget item. We got an agenda item. Let me just flip that over here for a minute. So
it's excellent timing, Ron.
yeah.
And nobody ever tells me what's going on. But I went out there to Pedernales Falls and I renewed my my park pass. Bought a new park pass, and I also got an acknowledgement email from them saying that I am one of their volunteers.
Yep.
So right at the top of new business, volunteers needed at Pedernales. Okay. Here comes Dawn. Good evening, Dennis. Oops. Oh. I just collapsed my waiting room here. Okay. Any of you guys that are co-hosts, feel free to help me admit here. Looks like Sean's going to be here, Joyce.
Okay, I don't know if he can, yeah, maybe he can set something up real quick.
Hello, Sean, are you in?
Yeah.
Nice background, Satwant. Are you in church?
No, it's a UT library background.
Ah.
Okay.
Oh, ET library. Okay.
Hi, Terry. I'm here.
Joyce was asking if we might be able quickly to set up a vote mechanism for the budget.
Yeah, if you give me about 15 minutes, I can get the vote online, I believe. Let me go ahead and try that now.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'll message you or just tell you when I get it working.
Great. I tell you, Sean is our can-do guy. Doesn't matter what you hand him. Oh yeah.
Have it done in 10 minutes.
Clock's running.
Now don't put any pressure on.
What time we start at 7:30?
I've got 7:30 right now, so we can call it officially started here. I'm going to put the minutes back up again for new folks that want to peruse those, and we'll leave the minutes up while we do new visitors. Let's see. Got too many things on my little tiny screen. New share. Back to the minutes. Share. Oh, Jim Moyle. Must be joining us from the
Wisconsin.
northern tier.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Good evening, Jim Moyle. How things in the north?
They're great. It's nice and cool up here. I've been swimming in Lake Superior.
Mm.
Wow, a superior swimming situation.
65 degrees.
That's
I
a
hope you
bit
have
cool.
I hope you have a hot rock to crawl out on when it's.
That's a bit chilly. I was in the San Marcos River today, and that's 72 degrees, and that feels nice and cool.
Yeah, Barton Springs is warm by comparison.
Mm.
Go a couple of more minutes here.
Yeah, and when you have a chance, Terry, can we move to page 3 of the minutes? I can't see them. Can others?
Oh, I thought there were just 2 pages and that was it.
Yeah, well, it stops in the middle of a sentence.
Okay, let me see what I can do here.
At the bottom, it says something about 3.
All right, I have to actually go to that, I think.
Because
just
it's in
the word
landscape
page.
mode.
It's just the arrow.
Did that do anything?
Yep.
Yes, that took care of it. Thank you.
Okay, just had to full screen it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in landscape mode, I guess. So it's looking like 3 pages.
Like I said, I'm kind of winging it with this only a laptop screen.
I consider it a point of honor that I managed to keep the minutes to 2 pages.
Yay, Jamie.
Yeah, especially when we're so verbose.
Yes, as I tend to be.
I would like to know, while we're waiting, I'd like to know how you folks get some of these fancy backgrounds into your pictures. I don't have a camera, but I'd still like to know how you get some of these fancy backgrounds.
Well, our guest Ed figured it out. This is his first time in a Zoom meeting, I think, and he figured it out pretty quick. So you go to your Zoom client, if you have the Zoom client, and go to click on your the little icon for your profile. There's a settings gear, and you click on that and go to backgrounds and something. But anyway, there's some pre-supplied backgrounds, or you can add a picture to the right folder and select that way.
Okay, I need to find something called Zoom Client then.
Yeah, if you just came in on the web browser, I don't know how you do it from just the browser, but if you have the Zoom application, yeah, you just click on your profile button and go to settings.
Yeah, you can't do it with just a browser. I tried.
Yeah, I came on with a browser because I just that's where I had the information for the meeting to log in.
So Jamie, can you tell if there are anybody in the YouTube meeting to give you a counter?
Yes, there's 3 now.
Okay, great. All right. So I need a volunteer to watch the Zoom meeting for questions on their chat.
I'll take care of that, Terry.
Thank you, Don. Okay. All right, I've got 736. I'm seeing a total of 23 participants here, so that'll bring us up to 26 if we include YouTube right now. So I'm going to get the participants window out of my way here and switch over to the agenda. Okay, First thing up is we want to welcome any new members, visitors, or guests to join us for joining us tonight. We're glad to have you. If anybody is new and they'd like to just make themselves known and say a word, we'd be delighted to hear from you.
Oh, I can say something. Hello, my name is Eurico Braz.
Hello, Eurico.
I live in Cedar Park. I'm a data and AI engineer in Microsoft, and I'm also a physicist. So I'm trying back to my origins.
Great.
And do some physics.
Okay. A little astrophysics anyway. Thanks for joining us.
Actually, that's something I have a lot of passion about.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then we'll move on to taking care of the minutes. I had them up for quite a while. I just basically didn't know if anybody has any questions about the minutes or any concerns about something in the minutes, and if not, we'll consider them approved.
There are a couple of mistakes in there I'm going to fix before I put them on the drive, the shared drive.
Okay, no problem.
Typos and things.
All right. Anybody have any issues other than typos? Okay. We got an interesting number here in the waiting room, admin 01319. Does that sound safe to let in?
I don't know.
Okay, I guess, let me see if he's still up there. I don't see anybody in the waiting room. Nope, he's in. Welcome, admin 3, I can't quite get the number now. Admin 031974. We're glad you could join us tonight. Okay, moving right along. Will the clerk?
Terry, was that me that just joined?
Did you were on previously? Did you come back in?
Yeah, because I just downloaded Zoom and it killed the killed the previous session.
Mute yourself real quick and then unmute yourself. Okay, I didn't see the mic mute for admin 013.
Are you seeing my face with my name under it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's admin 013794. I can't remember who it is, but he's familiar.
Okay, well. Whoops. Oh, hi, Glenn. Is that you?
That's me.
Okay. I was just trying to make sure we weren't getting a Zoom bomber in here. We never have had one, but you never know.
Oh, no, that's me. I don't have my mask on.
Yeah, glad you could make it. Okay, so moving right along, we'll start with officer reports. And of course, we still do not have a vice president who is responsible for organizing our speakers and venues. But we're mumbling on along and managing to come up with some interesting speakers. The situation is a little complicated for fall semester. So we have been waiting quite some time to get Don Olson, we almost never go more than 12 months or so without a presentation from Don, but he wants to do one in person, and it hasn't been possible since COVID. We actually put an application in for our regular rooms to meet at the UT campus for the fall, and they were actually approved. But as soon as that happened, the numbers on the COVID situation with the variant Delta and Travis and Williamson County numbers look pretty alarming. So we had set up to hear Don in person in September. I think, well, we've pretty much decided we can't do that. It's just too soon. There's a slim possibility maybe it'd be a different situation in October, but we're going to have to wait and see. If we don't get Don in October, I think he's got a commitment in November, so we'd have to move him to the spring, which hate to do because everybody would really like to hear one of his presentations again. So what I have in backup for the September meeting is Daniel Maloney presenting. We've been doing some talking about how we can support a lot of new members that are interested in astrophotography. And a lot of them are very much beginners and needing some help at the 101 level. And so we've had a lot of discussions about what constitutes, astrophotography 101. So Daniel's going to talk about that. He's way beyond. He's a graduate astrophotographer. So we'll use that meeting in September to discuss, how we can approach our astrophotographers with, training sessions and or mentoring sessions or some combination of the both. We want to bring in some of the club's excellent astrophotographers to help us out. So if you are an astrophotographer, I've got a list of about 25 of you. I'm probably going to be coming around and asking if you would be interested in any degree to help out with some teaching or mentoring on that. So if you're an imager, you expect a call from us here. Anyway, we'll be trying to set that up all fall here, and we'll see how it goes. Okay. So for the October meeting right now, we have actually a colleague of tonight's presentation. Ed Waddy's colleague is Whit Luddington. He would also be speaking on the AAVSO, but from he's going to take I think Ed is giving us an introduction, and I think Whit would be focusing on maybe one or two special topics within the area of interest of the AASVO. So, and then that still leaves November, and then we have in December, we don't have a regular meeting. If the virus allows, we'll have a get-together meeting in December, and then follow up with maybe live meetings in January. Okay, that's pretty much it for where we are. Anybody with I know several of you have talked about potential for some other speakers, and some of you were going to make contact with some of those candidates. Anybody have anything solid they want to relate?
I've reached out to Stephen Hummel of the McDonald Observatory. The problem I think is going to be with him is that he starts working at 8 o'clock. His schedule right now starts at 8. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, to get him. I'll see if that changes later on in the year, but for right now, when he's starting at 8 p.m., we're going to have a hard time getting him. So,
okay. All right. That was Bob, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bob. Okay. Okay. We'll move along. Did Patrick join us this evening? Okay, Patrick's our treasurer. We did work with him several hours this week in getting the budget prepared. I think I can describe it to you well enough. So that's under new business at the bottom. We'll come back to that in a bit. Joyce, what can you tell us about outreach?
Well, we finally got to have some star parties in July. Yay. One on the 17th at Pedernales Falls and on the 31st at Inks Lake. We had, I think, 130 at Pedernales Falls visitors, around 100 at Inks Lake. And there was something like 15, give or take, members with telescopes at each of those events. So we got started. Next scheduled event is in two weeks from tomorrow at Pedernales Falls. The EC has been having some discussion as to whether or not we're going to be able to do that. And we don't have an answer at this point. We need to talk to the park and just kind of see how things go. And so we'll let everybody know whenever we make a decision about whether or not we can be at Pedernales on the 28th.
Okay. Anything else, Joyce?
That's it.
All right, thank you. So this brings us to our member services acting chair, Domingo. Domingo, you have something for us? Are you on mute, Domingo?
Yeah, he's on mute.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Sorry. I didn't realize I was muted. We had a wonderful start party on Saturday. Many new members, and I was glad to see that a lot of the things that we planned came out okay. Not everything was perfect, but we did got a good span. So now the next start party for members is scheduled for September 4th. And of course, we're going to keep an eye on that COVID-19. Unlike the outreach, members only is more private, and we can require for members to be all vaccinated and stuff like that. So we may not cancel that one unless it's really, really bad, because again, we can control more of the situation, and it's more out there, not public. So we'll keep an eye on that. I do have a lot of things that we would like to do throughout the year, but we're going to have to take it one day at a time. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Domingo. So our communications chair and website guru, Sean, do you have something for us?
Hi, Terry. I just wanted to say a word about the STEM scholarship fundraiser that we're doing with the fleece jacket with AAS logo. It's listed on the website, on Facebook, and on Sidereal Times. So I'd recommend if you need a fleece jacket that you check it out. That's all. Thank you.
How many have we sold so far?
Around half a dozen. Now the order can't be completed until we sell at least 11. So I anticipate we'll probably get that.
Okay, and I saw something with 50 on it. Is that like the maximum we can get? Or?
No, that's the minimum amount for a fundraiser. So that was, I don't think that's relevant to us. I don't think we're going to hit 50 either.
Okay, well, they're great looking jackets, guys. It's a great way to support our STEM scholarship drive. So yeah, it's going to turn cold here in a few months. It looks pretty sharp. So please go over there and check it out. Okay. Anything else, Sean?
That's it.
Okay. Greg, can you tell us our equipment situation?
There really hasn't been a whole lot of change in that. I don't think we've gotten any requests for loaner scopes this month. So we're pretty much right where we were last month on that. We're going to be out at Pedernales again tomorrow to do some of the finishing work on the Falling Star Observatory. Hopefully we'll have it cleaned up and completely ready for action for the 28th. Okay.
Kind of harking back to Sean's thing and the STEM support. Any activity on the backlit astrophotos we're thinking of displaying there?
Yeah, I've been working on making some prototypes on those. I went ahead and I had some printed up onto the transparencies, and I'm working on building the backlit frames now. I was hoping to have one that I could show you today, but unfortunately I cut a piece too small, so I have to start over on that one. But yeah, hopefully by the end of this week, I should have 2 or 3 of them that I can at least 2 or 3 that we can hang up in the Falling Star Observatory. What we're planning on right now is they'll just be powered by 4 AA cell batteries, so they don't need to have a wall wart and a cord.
Great.
Brian is actually looking at including that option, though, that so we can do it either way. So I mean, if you want to just like plug it in and leave it plugged in all the time, you don't have to go replacing batteries all the time. But yeah, we're progressing along. I've got some photos to play with, and I've got some framing material, and I'm figuring out how to put it all together.
Okay, can't wait to see those hanging on the Falling Star walls there. I think it'll look very cool.
It will.
Hey, Terry and Greg, on the loaner scopes, I did issue 2 loaner scopes on Saturday during the party. Okay.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did, yes. And so we have a total of 4 out there that I have loaned. And I left all the other ones over there at the inside the Little Dipper Observatory, the Dome Observatory. I left them in there, about 6 of them. They're ready to be loaned in for the next star party.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, Domingo. Okay, so our Al Corner, which is our Astronomical League liaison, Don Davis, anything new for us this month?
Yes, definitely. The biggest thing, and really the highlight, what we want to talk about this week, this month, is AlCon. The virtual conference is going to be taking place starting next week, running from the 19th through the 21st. It's going to be a really phenomenal lineup for something that's not being held in person. They've really pulled out all the stops to make this as all-encompassing as the in-person conferences are. So you can register. Registration is free. There is a $6 charge if you want the official pin for the conference. There are a tremendous amount of door prizes. The list of door prizes ranges from, multiple opportunities to win gift cards to different websites, different astronomical businesses. Grand prize, of course, is an Explore First Light 127mm Cassegrain telescope from Explore Scientific, along with various other eyepieces, books, literature, binoculars. You can take a look at the entire list of door prizes on the website. The schedule is really phenomenal. Like I said, it's going to be going for those 4 days, and starts at 3 o'clock every afternoon. That's Eastern Daylight Time. The first day, there's going to be a tour by Summer Ash, who's the Director of Outreach for Columbia University's Astronomy Department, who's going to be giving a virtual tour of the VLA. Following that, we've got Dr. Richard Gott, who's a professor of astrophysics at Princeton University. He's going to be talking about the cosmic web. Ryan Claremont, who was the recipient of the Young Astronomers Award given out by the Astronomical League, is going to be talking. He's 16 years old and is a rising senior from Canyon Crest Academy. So that should be pretty inspiring. Of course, we've got David Eichler, who is the editor-in-chief of Astronomy Magazine, is going to be talking about he's going to be talking about galaxies. Let's see, we've got author Alan Dyer is going to be talking about chasing the Northern Lights. We've got some talks on the library telescope programs, a few spots that still haven't been filled, so there's some surprises there. There's going to be a live star party with SLU, and also we've got Dr. David Denham, who is from the International Occultation Timing Association, who's going to be talking about near-Earth asteroid occultations. Some talks on the hunt for near-Earth objects and planetary radar, the next generation of amateur astronomers, and our keynote speaker, which is really the highlight, on Saturday afternoon, is Dr. Joycelyn Bell-Burnell, and she's going to be talking about the discovery of pulsars in context. And then things will close out with other speakers talking about lunar exploration And we'll have Dr. Larry Crumpler talking about the Perseverance team, so the Perseverance lander on Mars. So, and of course, Kelly Beatty talking about darkness and distress. He's one of the editors of Sky and Telescope. There's going to be talks on Hubble. I mean, it's a really huge schedule lineup. And you can tune in at any time. Registration is on the Astronomical League website. Thank you for asking that question, Charles. I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat for you all. And then I'll also put it on the YouTube chat as well. But as I said, it's free. It's going to be going on all weekend, starting Thursday, and hope you all get a chance to tune in. It's going to be some fun and inspiring and very educational talks.
So this is Thursday of next week?
Thursday of next week, yes, starting at 3 o'clock Eastern time. So that would be 2 p.m. Central.
Man, that's quite a menu there.
It's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. And of course, within that whole schedule, there's going to be, door prizes given out through all 4 days. There's going to be other presentations, including the Mabel Stearns Award, and also, I believe, a few of the other awards that they hand out on a fairly regular basis, talking about the Horkmeyer Parker Award. There's going to be talks from various astronomy organizations. And of course, Astronomical League will be talking about their different programs. But yeah, it's going to be chock full. So clear your schedule.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn. Mm-hmm. So we've already talked about the AAS store with the jackets. There also is other merchandise there that we have in this program. Again, featuring our astrophotographers. So again, you can check that out. The link's on the website. Greg, you want to talk about the volunteers we need at Pedernales?
Yeah, so I talked with John Alvis, the superintendent at Pedernales, last week, and they put in a really nice stone gateway for us between the between Falling Star Observatory and the observing field. And the next plan, the next upgrade there is that they want to put in a pathway, excuse me, a road-based pathway between the parking lot past the end of the Falling Star Observatory and through that gateway out to the henge. They don't have the materials on site for this yet. That should be showing up within the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's not entirely clear yet. But whenever they do have the materials, they are very short on personnel out there. So in order to get this pathway in, they're going to need some extra labor. And that's when I'm hoping that we can come in and get together a work party to help them put that in. The plan is that they will put in that they'll take a tractor, front end loader, and they'll dig out about 4 to 6 inches of soil where the pathway is going to be. They'll put in metal edging and filter cloth underneath, and then use the front end loader to dump the gravel into that trough. And then basically at that point they need extra hands to just rake and smooth it out. Just use rakes, hose, or whatever to smooth it out. And then they've also got a compactor to come along and pack it all down nice and tight to make a good solid pathway out of it. But they will need they said that they will need extra hands just to rake and smooth it out, because that's something that they can dump gravel far faster than you can rake and smooth it, or at least far faster than 1 or 2 people can. So we'd like to be able to get at least a half a dozen people on a volunteer list that are available. We don't know when this will happen yet. I asked John to give us at least 2 weeks warning. There's a pretty good chance it would happen during a weekday, though, not a weekend, just because they don't have that many people available during the weekend. So if anybody is able to, anybody has a flexible schedule and can come out there during a weekday to help spread gravel, that would be greatly appreciated by the park.
Greg, I would prefer to come out there during the week.
Okay.
Maybe available.
I can probably help. I don't have any vacation plans, so my vacation time is open, and I only really need to be physically present in the lab 1 or 2 days a week. The rest of the time I can work remote, so put me on your list also.
Okay, will do.
Greg, if it's if we've got a 2-week notice, I can probably get a day off as well.
Okay. I think I will as well.
Okay. Anybody else, just contact Greg and let him know. Okay. So before we look at the budget, which we're just about to do, wanted to talk a little bit about our income situation with the AAS. While we're going through the budget, let's just kind of back up a little bit even before that. We went through a number of years where we really did not spend very much money year in and year out. And we were kind of in balance and maintaining a bank balance in the low 30,000s for several years. Then after we moved out of COE and we partnered with other partners and we had the need for developing some infrastructure to support that. We started spending money again. And so it's unusual that, we've kind of cut a pretty good chunk into that 30K balance. And the budget that we put up for this last term, which was the one covered by COVID, we had pretty ambitious spending goals for that. Because of COVID, we didn't really spend that money. But sort of the same features that we wanted to do last year, we're going to intend to do this year. Lord willing, the creek don't rise and we can afford it. So the budget will show that we're planning a fairly large spend again this year. And that would take our bank balance down to maybe 14,000. So we have been thinking that it may be time to look at some fundraising possibilities here, just so that if we need to do anything further capital wise, that we'll have the resources to do that. So a couple of ideas that have been raised are, one very simple one is to raise our member dues. I think they've been at $25 for regular membership for close to 2 decades now. And then we have family memberships, and then we have discounted memberships for students and seniors and some other things. So what we seem to be zeroing in on is to maybe go from our $25 a year regular membership, make that $40, and make the family membership $60 and leave the others alone. So we're going to be discussing this further, and we need some input from the GA. We aren't really going to be able to actually implement this until we can get in-person meetings together and get a quorum together to vote on it. So it could be 6 months or so before we would actually implement something like this. But if you have any opinions about raising the rates and how it might impact you, or if you think might be negatively impacting, how many people we have in the club or something, or any other discussions you think it's high time, contact your EC and let us know what you think about it, because we will be approaching this idea again. Another possibility, something we haven't done in any large degrees, and since we built the observatory at COE, and that is to basically run a capital campaign against our membership and maybe some other third-party sources, is basically ask the members for money. And the way we would do that is set a goal and allocate some time, probably a 2-month period or something, and see how much we can raise from the membership in just donations. Our current membership sitting in the 400s, a lot of that's families, but, our dues right now are bringing in with 400 members around somewhere between $7,000 and $9,000 a year. If we go to the 40-60, that's about a 50% increase in that. So it would help a lot. We know we have some specific things that we want to do in capital improvements for Bad Wolf and also Pedernales. We still have some capital spends we want to do there. Also maybe to acquire some additional equipment for loaner program or maybe astrophotography training. I think the general outline of what I'm thinking about for a capital campaign, and this is open for discussion and adjustment, is to set a goal of say $5,000 and just see what we can get from the membership, to support us in these capital bills. So if we're really serious about developing our dark sky site and supporting Pedernales and supporting more equipment for our members to use, then I think we could motivate enough of our members to generate a fairly good income from that. There's also the possibility of maybe taking this to a wider audience through our Facebook page and maybe asking for smaller donations from a larger audience. I mean, we have 3,000 members in our Facebook page right now that might want to support us in that endeavor. So that's another area we could go to. And we would entertain any other ideas about fundraising that you might have. So think about it, and anything that sounds like you'd like to discuss it, we'd love to hear about it. And anyway, this will be something that we're going to concentrate on first part of this next term to see what we can get going there. Anybody want to throw a comment out right now? Okay, then we'll move on and take a look at the budget. Give me a minute here, change the sharing. Full screen that. This out of the way. Okay. So this is what we've drawn up, and what we're actually showing here is for our last term, the 2020-2021 term. So our fiscal year runs from September to the next September, I guess, or through August of the next year. So we are about to start our 2021-2022 term. For our previous term, which again was a COVID, what we're showing here is what we budgeted for that year, and then the list of what we actually spent and some differences, did we budget correctly, or were we over or under? Okay, so our income budget was $7,300. We actually took in $12,000 last year in mostly membership fees, which is close to $5,000 more than we expected. So what happened? COVID happened, and we got a lot of interest in people looking for something to do, interesting to do. They joined AAS. So we got a lot of new members in there, and I guess a lot of regular individuals, memberships, and it was good news. Okay. We have a number of expenses that are pretty constant year in and year out. So we have to pay the Astronomical League based upon our membership number, and that's been sort of steady. So that's about in the neighborhood of a little over 2,000 a year. We also have website expenses that run a little over 2K a year. We have insurance. Again, 2,000 seems to be another popular figure here. And then once those big guys are taken care of, the operating expenses of various committees are, in the hundreds, a few hundreds. We have regular programs like AUTS and scholarship and our contribution to the National Dark Sky contributions. These are all in the neighborhood of a few $100s a year, and pretty much the same year in and year out. So the other the figures that show our ambitions are basically capital spending with our partner sites there, and our operating expenses for those sites when we set them up. So we had budgeted to spend 18,000 with about 5,000 coming in there on capital expenses at Bad Wolf and Pedernales. We had a big chunk of spend in the prior budget for acquiring the Connex storage unit that we're using out at Bad Wolf. In this term we're about to conclude, the capital expenditures there were basically fitting out the Connex once we had acquired it, and that is to a large degree done. I think in our new budget we're only looking at spending about an additional $1,200 capital expenses at Pedernales for the surrounding basically the Falling Star Observatory. Okay. So what actually happened, if we look at the actuals again, we planned to spend 18,000. We only spent a little under 14,000. So there was $5,000 in spending that we wanted to do that we never got around to doing it. So we still have these capital improvement needs. So we're basically taking this into the current term. And long story short, once we look at the things that are constant here, again, we're planning to spend about 18K, which if we do would be against our budgeted income. And this income doesn't include anything like the capital campaign or increasing our dues. Does somebody have a question? Okay. So we would end up with a net loss of about $8,500 there, and the bottom line on our bank account would be at a little over 14,000. So not too different from what we wanted to do last year. It's just kind of moved into this year. And the big spends on that, other than the things that remain constant or fairly constant, are going to be Bad Wolf capital expenditures of $3,500 and $1,200 at Pedernales. $1,500 in equipment purchases, so new telescopes and other things there. Now, having said this, also we see some opportunities for some cost containment, and we will be working on to take advantage of those this year. One of the key ones there is that we are spending operating expenses at Bad Wolf, $2,500. We actually spent $2,700. 90% of that is because we are renting a portable toilet out there and having it serviced on a monthly basis. I think we made a huge mistake in not discontinuing that during the COVID year, because it sat there. We were paying that month in and month out, not being used. This is Bad Wolf operating. All right. So one of the things we want to do with the capital expense is come up with an alternative for a toilet solution out there that doesn't use, a monthly subscription from a firm. And we're looking at several alternatives out there that we will take care of with our capital expenditures here. So we think we can drop the operating expenses from 2,300 down to 500. And the operating expenses at Pertinalis are really low. We put 500 in for that, and we have to some of the things that might bring it up to that 500 level. We're trying to get internet out there at the observatory, and a few other goodies out there. Other than that, our main operating expense has been just powering the generator. We also want to look at getting a permanent AC power supply out there. So if we do that, then this $1,200 capital expense might have to go up just a little bit more. Okay, so those are the big ticket items there, and you can see that the shape we expect to be in, even if we don't do these cost containment. I forgot one cost containment. We're also planning to build storage out at Bad Wolf. And if we do that, then we can drop our rental storage unit right now, which has been running about, well, now they raised the rates on us this year. It's about $1,000 a year for that storage rental. So we'll plow that into capital expense at Bad Wolf, and we can use the storage out there. We probably can drop this storage facility. All right, so I think I've covered most of the big ticket items. Are there any questions? Okay, if not, Sean has set it up so we can take a vote on this through, I guess it's a wild apricot feature. Sean, do you want to explain what the voting process is?
Sure. I'm going to try and share my screen. Hopefully I've got permission to do that.
I think you do.
Okay, I think that should be the right screen. So we're going to do the voting through austinastro.org. And the way you do that is log into the website or go to the website and click the vote button up here on the upper right. Each person who's registered to be able to log in to Austin Astro will be able to vote once. And if you're not logged in like this, then when you click vote, you'll come up on this screen where it'll say that you need to log in. But the best way to handle that is to go back to the Austin Astro page, click login, get yourself logged in.
I'm not seeing your screen.
I am.
We are.
You are?
Got it.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So after you log in, you'll be able to click the vote button again. And when you do, you'll see something like this, where it'll say AAS budget vote for 2021-2022, open from today. It's anonymous, so we don't record the names of who votes, but you're only allowed to vote if you are a member of AAS. And you can vote yes or no. And then after you vote, you can click the submit button. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Sean, it doesn't work for me. I got a 403 trying to access it.
Ah, okay. Is anyone else trying to vote?
Yes, it's giving me the same error message.
Ah, okay. And
Hey,
you are
Sean.
logged in?
Yes.
I am logged in, and I just verified my membership as well.
Okay. I'm going to unshare my screen. Please bear with me for a few minutes, and I'll see if we can get that squared away.
Yeah, if you want to ping me, I can try again.
Okay.
For the people who were logged in but weren't able to vote, were you logged in before Sean set things up?
I was not.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I just logged in and got the same results.
Okay.
Yeah. I was wondering if perhaps your browser had old information, but
Nope.
That's not the case.
Sean, do you want us to refrain from trying to vote while you're working on this?
You're muted.
Sorry about that. It is okay to keep on trying to vote if you wish. It's no problem.
Let me try it.
Oh, I got it. It came up for me, Sean.
Mine says access denied.
You're the only one who gets to vote, Terry.
Terry, it might be allowing you because you're an admin. So let me take a look at that.
Well, the vote page came up, but he's not actually letting me select the radio button. It says voting is closed.
Oh yeah, because I closed the vote in order to fix the problem. Let me set it back up again.
So we can take another 5 minutes to resolve this. Otherwise, we'll use an alternative method here. We need to get on so that Ed can start his talk.
Terry,
Yes?
typically when we're in our meetings and we're taking a vote like this, everyone sees everyone else's votes. And we do have a hand raise feature on Zoom if we want to consider utilizing that if the voting feature on the website doesn't work.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Voting is closed, so, yeah.
Full screen.
Okay, Sean, I think it was a pretty good effort here, but I think let's just go ahead and try it with the hand raise method. So so basically, what do we need to do, Don? We go to the reactions tab and raise a hand.
Go to reactions and raise hand, and then you can
And
leave
we
it
look
up.
at participants and they should all show the hands, right?
And
Yes.
raise the hand means I approve.
Yes.
Raising the hand means you're voting yes. If you want to vote no, don't raise a hand.
Hopefully I do this right. Got a raise hand. Did my hand went up?
I'll tell you in a
I
second.
can't see
Hand,
mine.
where's the hand at?
Can you
You're
guys see
clapping,
mine?
Bingo.
Huh?
So you want to click raise hand. That feature does not disappear until you prompt it to. Otherwise, if you just use the hand clapping, that will disappear momentarily.
Oh, so I said
It's the thumbs
reaction?
up.
Oh, thumbs up?
Click on reactions and click on raise hand.
It's right below the thumbs
Oh,
up.
raise hand. Okay.
Right below all of the
I got it.
emojis.
Okay, raise hand
Mhm.
and
Raise hand.
my hand up? Yes, it is.
Yep, it
Okay.
is.
All right, we're slowly figuring it out. They're all coming in here.
And if you don't have that feature for some reason, just hold your hand up.
How about that?
That works.
That works, Glenn.
That's good, Glenn. That's good.
Jamie, what's the cry face for? All right, it looks like people are kind of moving off and the hands are disappearing.
Yeah,
Down at 22.
I'd say that was probably appropriate. And you could go for, the nays. So everybody who has their hand raised, please lower it.
Lower hand, okay.
That was supposed to be a laughing face.
Okay.
All right. Now you can ask for the nays, Terry.
Nay.
Okay, if there are any nays, now is the time to raise your hand. Not seeing any hands raised, so I assume there's no nays. If you have a nay and you couldn't register it, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, we can say, Jamie, the budget is approved and we'll move on. Okay.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, so Ed, I am sorry we had to put you through all of that, but
Oh, I just love meetings.
okay, so folks, let me introduce Ed Wiley here. I've known Ed for several years. He is also a member at our dark sky site at Stellar Skies, and he moved out there after his retirement to basically do photometry, is my understanding, and I assume a lot of that is associated with his work with the Association of Variable Star Observers. But Ed is not a professional astronomer. He's an amateur astronomer. I always like to see when I'm talking to somebody who's into amateur astronomy, what their real profession is and how far removed it is from astronomy. Ed's an ichthyologist. So I don't know any other astronomers that are ichthyologists. Ed may know a lot of them, but I don't think I do. You had this career at teaching at University of Kansas for close to 40 years, I guess, Ed. And
that's right.
Yeah, and so now you're just kind of following your passion here. I won't take up any more time. I'll let you take it over. Everybody, please welcome Ed Wiley.
Okay, I'm going to share screen, and we'll get. I think that's it.
It's coming up.
Yeah, let's get it. There we go. So thanks for the introduction, Terry. I'm actually a native Texan. I grew up in San Marcos and Austin, a proud graduate of Lamar Junior High School before I moved back to San Marcos. Started my astronomy in 1956 with a 60 millimeter refractor, worked my way up to my present rig at Stellar Skies, which is a CDK 14 on a 350 Altaz mount. Not quite operational yet, but I'm working on it. I've been involved with the AVSO for a number of years, teaching at least 3 of their courses at one time or another. Right now, I'm teaching the introduction to CCD imaging. I like to call the AVSO real science for real scientists, and I don't care if you're paid or professional. If you do science, you are a scientist. And since my wife is an artist, I kind of like the juxtaposition between art and science. You see on the left a science image, and you see on the right an art image. There are 2 different disciplines, both of which are to be. Do you guys see the whole screen? Because I'm seeing a whole strip of y'all. There we go. I stand in awe of anyone who can compose a astrophoto like this one. I think it's fantastic. We're in the much more mundane business of simply taking images of stars. This one is even a canard because we only do black and white, but we do it in different filters, so that's okay. So what is the AVSO? It was incorporated, it started in the late 18th century, but it was actually incorporated in 1918. There's about 2,000 professional and amateur observers who are involved in it in one way or another. The AVSO has a data bank that goes back over 100 years with many millions of variable star estimates, many of which were done visually. And we have about 1 million observations each year that are added. You don't have to be a member of the AVSO to add observations to the database. And there's a whole bunch of professional papers as well as amateur, or what I like to call unpaid professional scientists, who've utilized this database for peer-reviewed publications. Everyone hearing me okay?
Yeah, we're hearing you fine.
Oh, good. Okay. So what do most amateurs do? Well, we estimate the magnitudes of variable stars. And most of the goal is to document light curves and periods of these variable stars. And from these parameters that we find in magnitude and period, this allows the professionals to tell something about the evolutionary changes or the actual dynamics of the stars that we study. And this is an M-type variable, which is a Mira, which is an old star that is now varying in magnitude because it is at the end of its life. And what you see here are visual observations in yellow, CCD observations in green, blue, red, and kind of red. And oops, sorry. And those are near IR, red, green, and blue to you astrophotographers. And you notice they really are kind of strange because the minimum magnitude in the IR is 9th, and the minimum magnitude of the same star at the same time in B is 17.5. So there's a huge difference in the actual magnitude depending on what band you look at. The AVSO is organized observationally into a stellar zoo with observing sections. And we'll go over, I'm not going to name all of these for you. We're going to go over some of them as we go ahead. Ones that I'm not putting into to look at in detail are actually some pretty interesting ones. They are the young stellar sky objects. These are pre-main sequence stars, the gamma ray burst guys, and the sunspot guys. I haven't featured them in this talk because there's just not enough time. But the others we'll take a look at kind of one by one as we go through and see what they do and what their objectives are. To aid observers in whatever variable that you wish to look at, the AVSO provides a spreadsheet that is updated every night from the records, showing for your area and for the time of year that you're observing. In this particular case, Mira or M stars. This is just part of the list of Miras that could be observed here in Texas several years ago, the 1st of April, 2018. And it tells you things like what its position are, what its type is, the magnitudes, the periods, what class it is. This is a long period variable. And it even tells you the observing cadence. So in these particular stars, they have very long periods. You're supposed to observe them once every 10 days. The AVSO has finder charts for each one of the variables in its database. And these finder charts come not only with the position of the variable and some characteristics of it, but also with the comparison stars that you're going to use to perform differential photometry, whether you're visual or whether you're CCD. In addition, every single variable in the database has a rundown in our VSX database with information and links to more systems. So this is R Andromedae, another one of these Mira stars. It tells you all sorts of information about it, including all the other names that you might find in the Center for Databases in Strasbourg, France. And you can see that it has a unique identifier. It has over 44,000 observations over the last 100 years. And just a bevy of information, including links to all of the primary literature that has been published about that particular star. So let's look at a few of the kinds of stars that we observe. First one up is long period variables. These are old red stars. Some of them are red, some of them are not so red, that pulsate in their old ages. And some of them even puff out their atmosphere. And then eventually what's going to happen is their whole atmosphere is going to go and they're going to become planetary nebulae. So this is an example of one, W. Aurigae, and it's very similar to the to the plot that I showed earlier for the other Mira star, with a number of bands in CCD and a number of things in both visual and CCD. But there's an interesting thing I want to show you about this, which shows the cooperation amongst different kinds of observers. Once you get up past 9.5 magnitude, a lot of CCD cameras can't image these Miras because they saturate the sensor before with any reasonable integration that you could do to smooth out scintillation and things like that. And so that's where the visual observers really take over. So if you notice, there's lots of visual observers up here in the peaks where these things are bright, and not so many visual observers down here where it is in fact very faint, and no visual observers down here in this particular range. So the synergism between people who do variable stars using what I call the I filter rather than EYE filter, rather than some photometric filter, there's a really good synergism between them and the CCD and other kinds of instrument-based observations. Semi-regular variables, the visual observers love these guys. Look at all the visual observations here for you booties. I mean, it's like the CCD guys just gave up on it, I suppose, but I mean, these things go riot. They have no particular period. They're also old stars that are, that may be going towards a regular period. We don't know. Us human observers don't have the kind of life expectancy to be able to figure some of this stuff out. We have to do it by comparative methods. But these semi-regular ones, I know a couple of dedicated CCD guys, that's all they do. Not this one, this was mostly visual, because they just like the fact that they never know what the heck they're going to find in any one night. It's just so irregular. Kind of like if you like chaos, you're going to love semi-regular late type long period variables. Then there are these really strange ones. Camelopardalis Z-Cam stars. And what happens with these is they go up and down with a pretty regular period. And then all of a sudden, someplace along the line, they simply stop varying. And they'll stop varying for days, weeks, don't think years. And figuring out exactly what the astrophysics of these stars are is something I don't know anything about, but I know that that's an active program. And there's only about, maybe 50 of these stars that have ever been identified. So they're very peculiar and very fun to do. And there's lots of attention paid to them, as you can see from these various observations. And also notice, the other thing to notice about these are they're white stars. So if you look at this, we got a B, we got a red, we got a V, all about the same magnitude. That means that they're white stars, which is kind of cool. They're not doing this because they're old and crotchety. They're doing it for other reasons. The Cepheids and the RR Lyra stars, a lot of attention are paid to those because they have really kind of neat light curves. So this one is AR Hercules, a nice white looking star. And what you can see is how the period varies, both in terms of the kind of spectral sampling we're doing and in terms of the actual peak in the phase. And so sometimes they're delayed, sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. These, of course, are extremely important in extragalactic or galactic astronomy because Cepheids are standard candles. RR Lyrae are standard candles. They're standard candles differently. In fact, when Hubble was doing his work, they didn't know what the difference between, they didn't know that the Cepheids and the RR Lyrae variables actually were different candles. And this produced quite a bit of confusion in terms of just how far things were away from each other. but that's all been sorted out now, and everyone's happy with the way that these things act in determining stellar distances. Now, there is what I call baby astrophysics, and I call that because it's a simple enough program that any amateur who wants to learn how to do variable star photometry can engage in it, even publish their own paper. And that is timing the peaks of these Cepheids as they go through their cycle. So you might say, well, the peak is predicted at this particular time. This is a phase diagram. It's not a time diagram, but you can say, well, the prediction for the peak magnitude is this Julian date. And so you can go into your observatory and you can say, well, I'm going to start 2 hours before and go 2 hours after. And if you're a lazy astronomer like me, you just let it run for 4 hours and then you pick up the data after you wake up the next morning. And then you see this peak and you can then time the peak. And I'll get into that a little bit more when I talk about my favorites, which are the eclipsing binaries. But these are another example. And then you get 100 or so of these peak values, and you publish your little paper of your findings. Cataclysmic variables. Cataclysmic variables are amazingly popular. I know two guys who specialize in the outburst of this particular variable, SS Cygni, the most famous of all the cataclysmic variables. The astrophysics of cataclysmic variables are interesting because they are actually binary star systems. So you have a sun-like star, which means that it's pretty much in the middle of the spectrum, and it's got a white dwarf companion, and that white dwarf companion siphons off material from the sun-like star into an accretion disk. And when that accretion disk gets big enough, bam, it goes off like a firecracker, and you get one of these big peaks. And then afterwards, very quickly, it comes down, and it's now in this phase, and the phase at the bottom of the light curve, it's now recruiting that mass from the star-like companion until it has enough, and then it's going to go bang again, and then it's going to go bang again and bang again, and on infinitum. So they never stop being novas. They're called dwarf novae or recurrent novae. They're really cool. So I know these two guys, and one of and the thing is the game is who can first detect the outburst. And one of those guys actually took out a subscription from iTelescope in Australia so that he could beat his buddy by checking it every night and looking for the outburst. There's a peculiar thing about these, and that is the accretion disk. And the accretion disk, which you see with the photometer at the bottom of the light curve, is of more than passing interest to professional astronomers, because accretion disks are like big and exoplanet formation and things like that. So they'd like to know a little bit more about accretion disks. The problem is, if you happen to point the Hubble telescope at this thing when it's at its maximum magnitude, you will burn out the sensor. So there are cooperative programs when the space telescopes want to look at the accretion disk, they get the AEVSO to start monitoring these things every night to make sure that they don't do it until the eclipses, until the noval activity is over and it's gone back down to gathering its accretion disk. Nice pro-am sort of thing. I specialize in eclipsing binaries, and I have to tell you, one of the reasons is because I can just let things run for 6 or 8 hours and then collect the data the next day. So here's an example, DE Lensis. And the way that eclipsing binaries work is there are two stars shown down at the bottom left, And they go through eclipses as one star transits in front of the other, or the star is lost in the back of the disk of the other. And you can see this. These are my own data for this particular one. You can see this, of course, in the photometry when you get this kind of dip in magnitude, and it's a very regular dip in magnitude. Now, I mentioned before that I published my first paper with my co-author, who's speaking to you next month, Whit Luddington, with a bunch of these times of minima calculations, and I'll get to that in a couple of slides. So here are the three kinds of eclipsing binaries. There's the ones which are composed of two completely separate stars going through their own evolutionary tendencies, completely separate from each other, but one happens to go in back of the back one and in front of the back one. And you get this dip, and then you get nice and steady, and then you get this dip, and then nice and steady, dip, nice and steady. These are algo types, or EA binaries. Then you get ones where they're starting to fill what's called their Rocci envelope. And that's the Rocci envelope is kind of the how far away from the center of gravity of that star can its atmosphere go before it loses it. And so these guys are kind of bizarrely egg-shaped. And because they're bizarrely egg-shaped, the minima are never, the between eclipses are never flat. So you get this curved dipping. It's like hill climbing sort of thing with the light curve. And those are the beta Lyrae types. Then you have a one in which not only have they filled their Rocci lobes, but they're now have a common envelope. And so these stars spin around, usually in an almost perfectly circular orbit, and they have a continual light curve like the bottom here. And these are called EW eclipsing binaries. And the EW eclipsing binaries are the fun ones, and those are the ones which I do the timing of. The others, you got to wait around 5 or 6 days. Every single night, there are many of these EWs that are going through their thing. They never stop varying. You always get instant feedback. Even if you have a attention deficit syndrome, you'll always get feedback from a EW type variable. So what do we do with these timing things? What do I do when I publish my 160 minimum timings? What does that tell us? What astrophysical interest do we have in that? Well, it depends on how the timings are varying. For example, if you look in the upper right-hand side, what you'll see is the timings never vary. These guys just keep going around each other, steady, steady, no change in period whatsoever. You could say nothing interesting. But if you look at RT Andromedae, what you see with these timings, so each one of these is a timing event that someone has put in a general catalog. And what you see is you see this hyperbola. And this is the signal that the period is increasing. Now, what are the astrophysical implications of increasing? I'm not a professional. I leave it to them to speculate about things like that. But I get really excited when I see something like this. And then I get even more excited when I see something like AD Andromedae. And so what it looks like, if you look at the average of all timings, they're pretty flat. But then if you look at detail, you notice a little peak here, a little valley here, a little peak here. You can't really tell. There's not much going on there. But then when you get the more recent things, you start getting this periodicity that's going around this flat line. That shows that that there are probably 3 stars involved. 2 of them where the period is not changing, and a third which is perturbating the entire system. And so that's pretty interesting, at least to me, and to all people who study eclipsing binaries. The hot new area of amateur research is, of course, exoplanets. And I teach the CCD 1 course, and I get a lot of students coming in there and they say, well, I want to learn how to do exoplanets. And I said, well, you better learn how to do something like eclipsing binaries first, because you got to hone your skills, because these suckers need millimagnitude precision, and you got to find out how to do millimagnitude precision. Now, I say millimagnitude precision and not accuracy, because when you time exoplanets, what you really want is as precise a data as you can get. Whether or not you've obtained a really accurate magnitude is not the point. The point is to do the timing. And if you go over to the AAVSO website, you'll find a paper that Ken Menzies and I did for the Las Cruces meeting. It's now trying to be a real paper on accuracy and precision in photometrics, if you're interested. There is a very rigorous training program for exoplanets. In fact, AAVSO is taking it on itself to certify AAVSO members, which can participate like the tests, discovery things. I don't do that sort of thing, but those courses are available from AAVSO if you're interested in exoplanets. So how do they do this stuff? Well, of course, current most historical records are visual. Current ones, visual, multi-filter CCD observations, photoelectric photometry, and even DSLRs. Let's go look at some of these areas of how we get the data. Visual observing. Hey, there's a manual on visual observing. You at the eyepiece of your telescope compare the star to companion stars, and then you estimate the magnitude. And a really good visual observer can estimate the magnitude within 1/10 or even 1/2 tenth of the true magnitude of the star, which is pretty awesome if you ask me. Nothing but your eyes, eyeball it. They have charts that are specially prepared for visual guys. They have visual observers. They tend to have very large fields because some of these things are very bright, and the companion stars, the comparison stars may be fairly far apart. Some of them are so bright that you have to do them in binoculars. Some of them are so bright that people even attempt to do them naked eye. So collecting photons electronically, well, there's PEP or photoelectric photometry, CCD, DSLR, and Cmos. So I'll go through at least some of these. Photoelectric photometry is like, man, you got to be hardcore to do this. I'll give you a chance to read this while I talk. The main thing about photoelectric photometry is it has the capability of doing very good photometry on very bright stars. And this may be the only really accurate way, or at least before the Cmos revolution, the only really accurate way of obtaining good, precise, accurate measures for small amplitude variables and for very bright stars. OPT makes it. 6-inch telescope, fine. Altaz, fine. Doesn't make any difference what your equipment is. I bet you can even do this with a 60mm refractor. You just have to pick your star. Amazing piece of equipment. Wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Don't feel qualified. I'm in awe of these guys who do this stuff. CCD photometry. You might be interested in where your CCDs came from. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but back in 1969, Boyle and Smith made a thing called charge bubble devices, which had high quantum efficiency and no reciprocity failure. And any of you who are old enough to remember trying to do astrophotography with film understand reciprocity failure. The longer that you expose a piece of film to the light, the slower it gets. Well, by 1975, Sasson of Kodak, who was working for Kodak, invented the first digital still camera. It used a 100 by 100 pixel CCD, and you are looking at it in the bottom right of your screen. There it is, your very first CCD camera. From that, as we say, the rest is history. So if you're interested in photometry, I would highly recommend you get a CCD, or, well, probably not a CCD camera now. Usually, I don't know how many CCD cameras are still out on anything except the used market. Just about any CCD camera will do, so long as it's mono and has regulated cooling. NAGB, non-anti-blooming gate cameras are the best because they have a big well capacity, which means they have a lot of dynamic range. But I've used an AGB, like most astrophotographers prefer, for years. Not a problem as long as you're within the linear range of the camera. You need a pretty good match between pixel size and OTA. If you're an astrophotographer, you always know how to do that. Undersampling is not okay. Oversampling is inefficient, but okay. Mount quality is important, but not terribly, as integration times are in the order of 2 to 3 minutes. I don't think I've ever done photometry over 5 minutes at the most. OTA size, we had stuff in the Bright Star Network that was 50 millimeter refractors, 50 millimeters to 5 millimeters. So small scopes are fine. What we do, whether we do CCD or Cmos, is we do special kinds of filters to take our data, and these are photometric filters, for which there are 2 major kinds of photometric filters. Photometric filters of the Johnson-Cousins type. Johnsons and Cousins were 2 observers who established standard star magnitudes. Johnson in B and V. So right over here on this end is B, and V is the next one. So this is U. He did U too, but U, we don't use U at amateur level, or very few do. So B and V was Johnson's, and red or R, and I, which is infrared, are cousins. And you notice that they have a particular kind of spectral coverage. Sloan filters are different. They're much steeper. All of the Sloan filters have very sharp boundaries. The Sloan filters are the filters of the future. Unfortunately, for new photometrists who want to use Johnson-Cousins or Sloan filters, they seem to be unavailable at the time. But you can see how much different these photometric filters are from your Astrodon generation to blue, green, red, and luminance. Very different spectral profiles. Why do we use these? Because the professionals have generated standard magnitudes for standard non-variable stars. And those standard magnitudes for those standard non-variable stars are the ones that we use for differential photometry. Differential photometry is easy. What is the instrumental magnitude of your variable star? What is your instrumental magnitude of your comparison stars? You know what the comparison stars' magnitudes are because they've been given to you by the professionals. Simple math will tell you what the magnitude of your variable is by simply comparing the 2. Processing images. Well, good calibration frames are absolutely essential. And I spend all of my time in CCD1, the first CCD course, trying to educate people about what calibration frames are and why they are essential and how to take them. Science images require good signal to noise ratio. And by good, we mean over 100. Nonlinear processing is not permitted. You cannot do any nonlinear processing on an image that you want to determine magnitude. There's a variety of programs to do all this stuff, from completely free, AstroImage-J, to very expensive, like the SkyX or Maxim DL. They all work. Surprisingly ugly results can yield good photometry. I have gotten good photometry with all 3 of these pictures: the good, the bad, and the truly ugly. as tracking arrows make for egg-shaped variables. Doesn't make any difference. It's differential photometry. Every one of these things yielded just peachy photometry. Data reduction. Well, principles of differential photometry. AAVS makes the charts, which we've looked at. They provide the photometric data for each star and its companion stars. And you can even use their online program, if you're a member of AAVSO, to do the analysis. So this is a screenshot in that program called VFOT. Here's your check star. This is a star that is used to make sure that everything is hunky-dory. Here are your comparison stars that you're going to use to figure out the differential magnitude of your variable. And in VFOT, you just push a button and you get the SNR and you get the FWHM, and you notice that they're all pretty much in the ballpark, so there's nothing funny going on here. Here's the comparison stars. Here's the check star. You go to the next screen, you get your photometry results. Magnitude was 13.219. By comparing how well each of these comparison stars estimated the magnitude of the star, you get a standard deviation, which is essentially the precision of your photometry. So this particular one resulted in millimagnitude precision, not to be confused with accuracy. These error terms don't give you accuracy, they give you precision. And precision is important to professionals because when they get all these data and they do their machinations, a lot of the errors go into quadrature, which means that you've got to account for errors for this, and then errors to the next step, and errors to the next step. And finally, you get the overall error. So they're very interested in errors. You can do it all at one time and get a complete light curve with a single press of the button and all of the characteristics that go along with it. You can see that air mass has changed. SNR has kind of fallen off near the end. I got a lot of tracking errors, but it didn't make any difference because the plate scale was good. So the tracking errors are hidden with the seeing. And all of my comp stars are nice and straight, so I didn't have any bogus comp stars. DSLR photography is great. I don't do it. If you got the money, I'm not sure that, I think the reason I shouldn't say that. It's perfectly okay to use the green channel to estimate DSLR photometry with a DSLR, and you can see that because you see these little guys with the star in it. Those are DSLR estimates, and they're pretty damn good compared to the CCD estimates. Where DSLRs kind of get wonky is when you try to do it in blue and in red, not so good. But the green channel seems to be really good. So if you just want to try out photometry, there's a course on DSLR photometry that AAVSO teaches. You may never have to get a CCD camera. You may be able to use your Cmos color camera for this. I don't know, probably why not? I mean, Cmos color cameras are nothing but cool DSLRs without any of the accoutrements. Cmos cameras, $20,000 to a few hundred. One of the reasons that we did our accuracy program to see if a 12-bit Cmos camera could yield as accurate a photometry, and I'm talking accuracy here, not precision, as accurate photometric results as a full 16-bit CCD camera. And you know what? They can. Which means that as we move in from the transition from CCD to CMOS, we're not going to miss a step. When my CCD camera, you have to claw my CCD camera from my cold dead hands, but when it finally dies, I already have a CMOS camera. I'll just put it on the back end of my telescope and bury the CCD camera. So this was very good news. And we're not talking about 16-bit CCD cameras. We were able to get accurate photometry with a 12-bit, $900 CCD camera, a ZWO 183. Don't know how to do this stuff? Well, astrophotographers, we can't go nonlinear, man. It's so easy as long as you have good calibration films. Come and join us. CCD and CMOS can be taught all of the tricks of not only obtaining the good images, but processing the images and loading everything up into the databases is covered in our choice courses. And you can take choice courses not only in CCD, but you can take lots of choice courses. We provide lots of software. So here's some of the choice courses: CCD 1 and 2, photometry using VFOT, how to use VSTAR, which is a period analysis tool, DSLR photometry, exoplanet observing, photoelectric photometry in the 21st century. I mean, there's just a plethora of these courses. If you're a member of AAVSO, you get a discount. If you're not a member, you can still do it, because you do not have to be a member to submit data. You don't have to be a member to download manuals. You don't have to be a member to look up data and obtain observing charts. You don't have to be a member to ask questions on our forums. If you're a member, you get to support a first-class scientific organization, and you get discounts on choice courses, and you get access to our image analysis program, VFOT, which is, in my estimation, the best thing since sliced bread for photometry. So that's it, folks. I will stop my sharing and answer any questions that anyone might have.
I've got a question for you, Ed.
Sure.
What kind of tracking mount do you need to do this kind of work?
Well, I mean, you need something that you don't feel rotate. So you need to have a German equatorial mount, or like my new system, an Altaz with a rotator on it.
Okay.
So if you got some sort of rotator, now it's not clear at all. People are really experimenting with this stuff. It's not clear at all that you couldn't stick CMOS cameras are really terribly sensitive. I mean, they are awesome. This 12-bit $900 ZWO camera is a backlit camera. You used to have to pay $15,000 for a backlit CCD camera. I mean, they're amazingly sensitive. So I'm absolutely convinced that someone's going to stick one of these CMOS cameras in a non-tracking Dob, take 2-second exposures of bright stars, and get very good photometry. Would not surprise me one single bit.
I was wondering about that. I was wondering if you actually had to even have tracking, or could you do 3 to 5 second exposures and then stack them?
Probably. I would not be a bit surprised. I haven't done that. I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone in the AAVSO has done that. But look, once you get these really sensitive cameras, what are people going to do? They're going to try to push the envelope. They're going to try to do stuff with their stuff that no one's ever done before. But I would encourage you, if you want to do something like that, I would encourage you to really learn the basics of what I call CCD photometric techniques, which are also CMOS photometric techniques. The way, what you have to do to get good data. And then once you do that, like I say, I expect that someone will do it. And I expect that that'll just be fine.
Okay.
How important is dark skies for your work? Is it possible to do it in an urban environment, like say downtown Austin?
You can do it in the middle of Austin. And there's a reason for that. one of the guiding principles of differential photometry is you don't want wide FOVs. In fact, you really don't want anything more than 1 square degree. And in the urban environment or the suburban environment, probably probably 30 minutes FOV at the most. And the reason for that is because differential photometry assumes that you're in the same air mass with the same conditions, with the same everything. Whereas when I go out in my backyard and take Scorpius that's rising over Austin, because I live in Georgetown, what I know is I'm going to get horrible, absolutely horrible light gradient. Well, if you get a light gradient in differential photometry, your photometry is no good. So you need to assume that from one end to the other of that image that there's no light gradient. And the way to do that is with a small field. But I do photometry with full moons. And if you can do photometry, and I don't point it at the full moon, I try to point it opposite the full moon. But if you can do really accurate photometry in full moon conditions, you can probably do it in the middle of Austin, without a doubt, as long as you're up in the zenith and you don't have any gradient.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, yeah, thanks for the presentation.
In fact, I'll tell you this: I have done it in full moon conditions where my lights looked like they were half flats with dust motes and things like that on them. Yes, sir.
Hey, just thanks for the presentation. On one of the slides there, I didn't get to the bottom bullet. It mentioned mono. Are there any special criteria or mono sensors allowed? And
well, it's always nice, you know. One thing that I haven't figured out for myself. So I bought one of these Cmos mono cameras specifically because I knew I was going to start getting Cmos people into the CCD course. And if I had no experience with a Cmos camera, I wasn't going to be able to help them. And so I got this Cmos camera. Now, many of them have tiny pixels. And the way that they bend those pixels, so, you know, usually if you have a CCD, you want to match pixels to your FO, you know, to your imaging train so that you have something, you know, on the order of a half to 2 arc seconds per pixel resolution, right? These things have really tiny pixels. And so the question is what's going to happen when I put something with really tiny pixels on a 14-inch telescope and then I bin it, and the binning is off-camera binning. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I think, though, that the high-end guys have these Kepler cameras, and they have 9 micron pixels. Wow. And so they're hunky-dory. But I can't afford, I just spent a whole bunch of money on the CDK14. I can't afford another $30,000 for a Kepler camera unless I win the lottery. So there is some, you know, so in my mind, and it could be that it's only in my mind, what's going to happen is you're going to just do it in bin 1, and then after that you're going to use software to bin it until you get the right kind of a pixel scale that you want, and then you're going to do your photometry. But how that's going to work out, I don't know, because I wimped out. I used this 80 millimeter refractor, which has a perfect image scale for that little camera.
Yeah, the 80 millimeter. I have the 183 mm, and that's great on the 80 millimeter. But there's no problem using a mono camera versus a color.
There's every problem in the world in using a color camera.
Okay, thank you.
You have to, you know, if you use a color camera, then you've got to go into DSLR type stuff. But the fact that it's a mono camera means that you can put in front of it the photometric filters, and that is the criterion. In other words, if you're going to do, well, I hate to say this, but I see the DSLR and the color CMOS as getting you hooked. And as soon as you're hooked and you understand the limitations of those, you're going to go buy a mono camera and the filters as you get serious.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Ed, I have two questions. One is when you are trying to establish your precision of your observations, how many samples of the observing star do you do to establish that precision?
Horribly bad statistics. Okay. So in that particular case, I generated a standard deviation based on exactly 4 images.
Oh my God.
Pretty bad. I mean, you can do it, but pretty bad.
Okay. My other question is,
okay. Wait. Let me rescue myself here.
Okay.
So in our study, we said if you want to be serious about a real standard deviation, you should do a minimum of 11 images and hopefully 21 images.
Right.
Then you would be starting to get into kind of the area where that is more than a joke.
Right. Yeah. When you say 4, I say, well, that's not really.
No, I mean,
I don't know. You can establish precision on 4 data points.
Well, that's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. And yet you saw that other thing there that was called error. Right. That's done with no observation. That is purely signal. That is purely a signal to noise ratio thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not even statistically based. So we have this course called Uncertainty About Uncertainty. And
well, we just call it guesswork.
Yeah, well, it's not guesswork. It is guesswork.
Educated guess.
Because what it does is well, number one, even just the SNR based one gives a professional some idea of what your signal to noise ratio was. So is your signal to noise ratio actually decent? If it's actually decent, then that parameter will be 0.01 or better. The other one at least gives a nod to trying to do a real standard deviation. And the problem is that even in a really good field, there's probably not that many comparison stars to make up a full ensemble that you could do much better. So some people say, oh, we use an ensemble of 2. And I said, well, that's not an ensemble. To me, it's got to be at least 4, because as we both know, 4 is the minimum that you can do to do an Earth race standard deviation. You can actually calculate it with 4. And so 4 is the minimum. It would be much better if there were 12, 13, 14.
Right. Some years back, I bought this Celestron Cmos Skyrise camera, and I'm still trying to learn how to use it because you're right, it's very sensitive, way too sensitive. I mean, I point it at Polaris and it gives me a bright and can really split the stars. Right. The pixel size is 3.75 micron square.
Yeah.
And it's got a resolution of 1280 by 960. I mean, when I saw these, it seemed to me like it was too fantastic to be true. And I bought it for only a couple of $100 used, but I bought it for a couple of $100. It does great, but I still haven't been able to use it much because the software is horrible. The software came with it. It's
well, horrible. there are better software, and I'll try to provide Terry with some links to some of that. I used cameras like that in my days of doing optical interferometry of double stars. And I also did some fun stuff with the moon and with Jupiter. Those things are, they're really video cameras.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are.
And so, I was doing 10 millisecond, 2 millisecond, 10 millisecond exposures. And I was reeling off 1,000 of these things to do this lucky imaging. I think cameras like that are wonderful for lucky imaging. I don't know how good they are for photometry.
Well, it seems like I can't slow it down. It's way too fast. It's way too sensitive.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you do it at 10 milliseconds.
Right.
And you run off 1,000 of them, and then you get the software to deal with that. So yeah.
But it was great for doing live imaging when we were doing those virtual star parties.
EAA, yeah.
Because live, I mean, it's doing it right there. It doesn't have to stack anything. It's streaming right there.
Right.
Yeah. Looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have several of those cameras. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a true optical eye. Is what I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, this is Chris. Thank you so much for your presentation. Question: are you seeing amateurs using automation? I guess for professionals too, where scopes come out, they've got pre-programmed stars taking data points at regular intervals, night after night, and just kind of monitoring, I guess, the program. Is that a thing at the amateur level?
Oh yeah, that is a thing at the amateur. There's a Bob Denny's asked, what is it, DC Dreams or something like that. He has a whole automated system. Terry, I think Daniel uses that system.
I'm not sure if that's the one he uses or not, but yeah, he's got everything lined out for the next year,
yeah, I think he is. He's using that system. Yeah. So yes, I memean, astrophotographers use it. Variable star, there's a guy at AVSO does like, humongous amounts of Miro work, and he's got it all essentially, he just lets it run. It opens up the observatory, it turns on his telescope, he does all that stuff. I'm semi automated. So we open up the observatory, but my actual observing runs are unattended. Because if there's one thing that I find totally boring, it's sitting there watching something take a picture. I don't want to be in the observatory when that happens unless I have an easy chair, a pair of binoculars, and a good visual scope that I can look at stuff with.
Exactly. So I got a couple of questions, Ed. Back when you were talking about the various classes of variable stars, I think it was the Cataclysmic class.
Yes.
That was with the white dwarf drawing off material from the other star.
Right.
How isn't that the same setup for generating a type 1A supernova?
Yeah, probably so. It's just that the accretion just never gets big enough for it to really pop off. It's because it's shedding all that energy.
Okay, so
periodically.
It's a wannabe type 1 supernova, I guess. Okay. Second question is I'm not really clear on how the PEP instrument works. So.
Okay, I can give you a little bit. So what it is it's a photoelectric cell, and what they do is they very carefully calibrate it, and then they count ticks, tick 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 tick.
Like a Geiger counter.
Yeah, like a Geiger counter.
So
and they write down some. Now, my knowledge of this is very rudimentary. Okay. And then they go to their comparison stars and they do the ticks too. And then they come back to the sky and they do it again. So that they do their target star several times, and they do their comparison star several times. And then
is the field of view for one of these so small it actually just takes in?
That's the whole point. The point is they have the whole sky for their field of view. So they, for a bright one, they can go quite a distance out to get the comparison stars, whereas a CCD can't reach that far.
Okay.
So yeah.
But the device doesn't have an array of sensors on it like a CCD does, right? It's just
it has. I'm not sure about the electronics. I know that it goes through a filter and it hits whatever sensor it's got in there. And then somehow or another, they record that intensity, and then they go to the next one. But you really got me on that one, because not only do I know nothing about PEP, I've made an active choice not to learn a damn thing about it. It's like as a biologist, I made an active choice to only know that there are buzzards, hawks, dicky birds, and pigeons and chickens, because I didn't want to get roped into the fun stuff of being a bird watcher. I didn't have time. I wanted to be a fish watcher.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Any other questions for Ed?
I've got a question.
Sure.
So a few times I've looked for some quality data on atmospheric extinction, particularly at the lower altitudes, and I've been unable to find any. Now
That's
I'm
good.
sure
You need to do it yourself for your site. So what we do is that this is very important when we use the B filter, because the B filter, as you go down towards the horizon, the extinction coefficients of the B filter get very high. And so, to figure it out for your site, you simply start at the horizon and you follow it all the way up to the zenith and all the way back down west. And you're imaging stars of no magnitude the whole time. And it's pretty simple once you do the photometry to figure out what you got.
Oh, we'd have to know the spectral output of each of these stars. So
well,
I wanted to do this for calibrating color images through standard LRGB type filters, not photometric.
Oh, I don't know about that. Doesn't Atom Block tell you how to do that? And doesn't Pixel Insight have some sort of thing where you import the stars and one of the atlases and they match it to your stars and then they make the color the same as what it should be?
They very well might, but there's
I think there's something like that. There's something like that in Pixel.
1.5 of them.
Yeah, there's something like that in Pixel Insight that you can actually color match your stars to known magnitudes from surveys.
So does the AAVSO have any data regarding this, or should I explore other avenues?
Well, you could certainly go on the I don't have any particular knowledge of that, but you could go onto the AAVSO site, and I would suggest you download the CCD manual, because it could, it'll have a little bit about that. But I don't know. There's a couple of guys that I've met over the years that I think you talk to them for 5 minutes, you know that they're smarter than you. And one of them is Bob Buckheim, who wrote this book way back when, what's it called? Projects for Amateur Astronomers or something like that. And he deals with a lot of those things. Just a minute, let me get the book.
So while Ed's searching, I want to make one comment about we had a message in the chat about the Amazon Smile program. And I wanted to let everybody know we are a part of that program. I think Don set us up with that. I don't know how much we've been making off of that. Don, do you have any access to statistics on that?
I don't recall making that, but I'll see if I can track some down. Give me a moment.
Okay. So basically,
Patrick actually set that up.
Okay. I'll get with him. I didn't see anything, line item on the income and the budget that seemed to be coming from that. So I expect it's not a lot. But basically, you get an alternative Amazon website, and if you purchase items on that, AAS gets a cut of it. You got to remember to go to that site, though. So I've used it several times, but I haven't got anything that forces me to go over there. So you got to think about it. But it is something that could bring in a little bit of income if we got everybody in the habit of using the Smile version of the site.
When I do it, if I just go to Amazon, it'll say, do you want to go to smile.amazon? So you are prompted to do it if you've signed up for it. Doesn't force you, but you're prompted.
Yeah, but it seems like it prompted me for a while and then stopped prompting me.
Well, I haven't done it. I haven't checked lately, but that's what it was doing for a while.
For me, when I first set it up, it didn't prompt me. So like for quite some time, I wasn't sending any kind of donations. And then I checked it just this last spring, and I was able to like log into it. And then now every time I go on my phone and shop on Amazon, it's just automatically always there.
I mean, I can view that, you know, the status as far as, you know, it is selected as my charity on my Amazon, but I haven't purchased anything that qualifies. So if you have purchased something that qualifies, you actually do have the ability to see how much has been generated for AAS.
What I see is that we have gotten $14.
Yeah, that's right.
So is it not a wide range of the products that are qualifying?
Not to my knowledge. It's pretty specific.
Okay.
I've put that book on the chat.
Okay. Thanks, Ed. So Robert K. Buckheim, The Sky is Your Laboratory.
It's a little bit dated in some ways, but the basics of it are really solid. I mean, you know, it was published in I don't know, 2007, which sounds like it should be ancient, but so, you know, some of his CCD stuff and things like that are a little bit dated, but the principles are really good. He goes through a lot of stuff.
All right. Okay, we're getting a little late here. So any final questions for Ed? Okay, great. So I really appreciate the talk, Ed. I found it very enjoyable, and I want to find out a little bit more about this. So I'll have some conversations with you here.
All right. Well, listen, thank you all for attending. I thought I had a lot of fun, and there were some really good questions, and it's been a privilege.
Okay.
Thank you, Ed.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting now. I've got to stay on for a few seconds while I turn off our YouTube streaming, but if you want to do the Walton's good night thing, guys.